If you have read Pride and Prejudice or watched any of the adaptations, you know one of the Bennet sisters, 15 years old Lydia, runs off with George Wickham, a handsome militia officer and secretly a professional liar. Lydia convinces Wickham to take her to London. They simply disappear without any public wedding taking place, staying in cheap lodgings for nearly 2 weeks. When the news reaches Lydia's family, they lose their minds. Her mother becomes hysterical, her father rushes to London to search for the couple. Relatives are called upon for help. Everyone fears the worst. For many modern readers, this reaction can seem surprisingly dramatic. After all, teenagers run away today. Couples live and travel together without marriage. A 15-year-old running away with an older boyfriend would certainly concern her family. But why is it such a big deal in Pride and Prejudice? Why does Mr. Bennet literally race to London to find them? And why does Elizabeth burst into tears and tell Darcy she will never see her sister again? To understand why Lydia's actions caused such a panic, we have to remember Regency England wasn't our world. Regency England operated according to a completely different set of social rules. Lydia's action was far worse than just breaking a social rule or two, because what she did almost ruined everyone else around her. We first need to understand how female reputation worked in Regency England. In the early 19th century, a young woman's reputation was one of the valuable things she possessed. Respectability affected not only how society viewed her, but also her future opportunities, her marriage prospects, and even the standing of her entire family. What seems to us like an impulsive teenage romance looked very different in the Regency era. To Lydia's neighbors and acquaintances, her disappearance suggested something far more serious than youthful recklessness. We need to look at the expectations placed on unmarried women in Regency England. Young ladies were expected to be modest, well-behaved, and extremely careful in their interactions with men. Courtship was encouraged, but it followed strict social rules. Women attended balls, dinners, and assemblies to meet their potential husbands, yet they were usually accompanied by family members or chaperones. Private meetings with gentlemen were discouraged, and even showing too much attention to one particular man could spark gossip. The reason for these rules was simple. Society believed a woman's virtue had to be protected not only in reality but also in appearance. And appearance mattered a lot. A young woman could behave perfectly and still damage her reputation if circumstances suggested otherwise. Regency society often judged what seemed likely rather than what could actually be proven. Rumors, assumptions, and public perception could be just as powerful as the truth itself. This is where Lydia's situation became a disaster. She did not merely flirt too openly with Wickham or spend too much time in his company. She disappeared with him entirely. To Regency observers, an unmarried 15-year-old girl running away with a man and living somewhere in London without her family's protection appeared to be a shocking violation of social expectations. Whether anyone knew the exact details hardly mattered. Most people would immediately assume the worst, and once that assumption took hold, it was incredibly difficult to erase. A ruined reputation could be created by suspicion alone. This explains why Lydia's family reacted so desperately. Every day she remained missing gave neighbors more time to speculate and gossip. To modern readers, the scandal may seem exaggerated, but in Jane Austen's world, Lydia had crossed one of the most important social boundaries imaginable. Her actions threatened the reputation of the entire Bennet family. Most importantly, Lydia's actions threatened the future of all four of her unmarried sisters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, and Kitty. Again, we need to remember that Regency society often judged families as a whole rather than individuals. Today, if one sibling makes a terrible decision, most people would agree that the other sibling should not be blamed for it. We generally see people as responsible for their own actions. But Regency England did not always work that way. A family's reputation was shared. The behavior of one member reflected on everyone else. If a daughter became involved in a public scandal, people did not simply ask, "What is wrong with her?" They also asked, what kind of family raised her. People might wonder whether the Bennet parents had failed to supervise their daughters properly. They might question whether the other sisters were as respectable as they appeared. Even if Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, and Kitty had done absolutely nothing wrong, suspicion could spread to them simply because they belonged to the same family, and that suspicion could have serious consequences. Marriage was one of the most important ways for women of the Bennet social class to secure their future. A good marriage could provide financial security, social connections, and stability. But families looking for suitable matches wanted to avoid controversy. Imagine being the parent of an eligible young gentleman. Would you eagerly encourage your son to marry into a family whose youngest daughter had run away with a man before marriage and become the subject of local gossip? Many families would hesitate, not necessarily because they believed the other Bennet sisters were guilty of anything, but because association with scandal carried risk. Reputation was valuable, and many people preferred to avoid uncertainty altogether. This is where the situation becomes especially frightening for the Bennets. At the time of Lydia's disappearance, Jane Bennet's relationship with Bingley seemed to have been revived. Jane was widely admired for her beauty, kindness, and good character. Yet, even a woman as well regarded as Jane could suffer from the disgrace attached to her family name. If Lydia's scandal became widely known, Bingley, or perhaps more importantly, the people advising him, might reconsider the match. Marriage was not simply a union between two individuals, it was also a connection between two families. Elizabeth would also face a similar problem. Although intelligent, charming, and respected by those who knew her well, she could not completely separate herself from her family's reputation. Then there were Mary and Kitty. Unlike Jane and Elizabeth, they possessed fewer advantages. Jane was considered exceptionally beautiful. Elizabeth had wit, confidence, and strong personal connections. Mary and Kitty lacked those particular strengths and already faced a more challenging marriage market. For them, a family scandal could be even more damaging. Potential suitors might overlook them entirely. Families searching for respectable daughters-in-law could decide that the Bennets were simply too risky. Opportunities that are already limited might disappear altogether. And remember, the Bennet sisters were not wealthy. Their father's estate was entailed away for the female line. The daughters would not inherit Longbourn. It will pass to Mr. Colin. Marriage was therefore not merely a romantic goal, it was closely tied to their financial security and future well-being. That is why Lydia's behavior created such panic. She had not simply endangered her own prospects, she had placed the reputation of the entire family in jeopardy. One impulsive decision had potential to close doors for every unmarried Bennet daughter, regardless of their innocence. In Regency England, a scandal rarely stayed confined to one person. It spread through families, friendship, and social circles. Even servants gossiped, so it was impossible to keep it a secret. To us, Lydia's actions may seem reckless, immature, or irresponsible, but for Austen's original audience, the situation looked very dangerous. One major reason was George Wickham himself. By the time Lydia runs away with him, we already learned that Wickham is not the gentleman he first appeared to be. He is a liar and pursued wealthy women for financial gain. He had previously attempted to run away with Darcy's young sister Georgiana when she was only 15 years old. His goal was not love, it was access to her fortune. This history makes Lydia's situation even more frightening. One of the biggest fears was that Wickham might never marry Lydia at all. If Wickham abandoned her, society would consider her ruined. Her chances of making a respectable marriage would be impossible, and the stain of the scandal could follow the entire Bennet family for years. This is what makes Darcy's intervention so important. He tracks down Wickham and Lydia in London, discovers that Wickham has no intention of marrying her, so he uses his own money and influence to settle Wickham's debt and make the marriage possible. Without Darcy's intervention, Lydia's story might have ended very differently, and the entire Bennet family would be doomed. And this is why Lydia Bennet's scandal remains one of the most dramatic and serious moments in Pride and Prejudice. Thank you for watching. Please like these videos and let me know about your opinion in the comment section. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe. Have a nice day.